So, welcome to Inside the Dumpster Studio. I think you are episode 4.
Nice.
If you would introduce yourself first.
My name is Brad Melius. I'm here from San Diego, California, at a school called Pacific Ridge.
And yes, you are, I think, are definitely our furthest traveling, I'm guessing, dumpster resident and part of our Educator-in-Residence program. You're a teacher at the Pacific Ridge School. What do you teach?
I teach 8th grade and 11th and 12th grade physics.
Okay, and what brought you to the dumpster?
Well, I actually wish I could remember who told me about it, but me and a colleague are planning possibly a tiny house course. Interested in sustainable design and small spaces, and so this just seemed like a natural thing to check out. And when I saw the Educator-in-Residence program, I sent you an email.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did. And then, we spoke on the phone, and it was just so perfect hearing about your plans. And I mean, yeah, you're not planning on using a dumpster. You're going to build a more traditional tiny house, I guess. And it's really awesome that hearing about the school and how they're so supportive of it, it sounds like a really great place. How did you pitch it to the school and just, get this course? Because it seems like an unusual like you teach physics, so they have a regular traditional curriculum, and then this is very...
Yeah, we actually have a pretty healthy STEM program.
Excellent.
STEAM, actually. Last year we ran 3 classes. One of them was photo science that I co-taught. There's another one, video game design, and I can't remember the third one. We had the students make ukuleles. So the school is interested. It was our pilot year, and they're interested in growing it, and so I pitched it as a STEAM class, and it was accepted. A lot of students signed up.
Awesome.
So.
That's quite the step up, though, from video game design and even building something but like ukuleles to a tiny house.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why it's going to take us 2 years to...
That's awesome, though. I'm glad you're not... Yeah, because originally we had spoken, you were going to do it in a year, which is highly compressed. We've learned. So I was really happy to hear you're going to just, take a little bit more time. I think, and it's also just more realistic from our perspective, but we're always excited to hear what other people end up, will follow your progress as well. But let's also back up. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Like where I'm from?
So, kind of leave it open to whatever you want to share.
I suppose I was born in Tennessee, mostly raised in the Northeast, Massachusetts, Connecticut. I went to school at Colgate, upstate New York, majored in astronomy physics. After college, I did the Peace Corps in Cameroon, and I think that's where I sort of learned that you can live without things, living without running water, sometimes electricity. I didn't have a computer. I just sort of realized that you can be happy with less, and then I started to hear about tiny houses and smaller dwellings, apartments, and just kind of became an interest of mine. Looked into minimalism and various things like that, and that's kind of how I found myself here.
Wow. Yeah, so Peace Corps, that's one thing we have in common. I did Peace Corps in Mexico, and it would but at the same time, while we have the name in common, probably in many ways very little else in common with our Peace Corps experiences.
Yeah, most volunteers don't have the same.
No, it's just one of the strengths of the program, and I think in an interesting way is that we could probably do an hour conversation right now just on Peace Corps. But why don't tell us a little bit about what type of so for people that don't know, Peace Corps has a variety of different programs. I was a technology transfer volunteer. There's education volunteers. There's health volunteers.
Yeah, in Cameroon we had health, business development, agriculture, and education. And I was in the education program. I was a physics teacher at a public high school in a town about 2 hours from a bigger town. Yeah, it's hard to kind of describe. I always estimated that there were about 20,000 people in the whole city.
Okay. Yeah, that's
based
a
on the
large
number of schools.
town,
Yeah.
small, yeah.
Our school had about 2,000 students.
Okay.
I was teaching, actually almost similar to what I'm teaching now. I was teaching about half of the really young kids, the equivalent of 7th and 8th grade, and half of the older kids, maybe the equivalent of sophomores, juniors. And it was great. There wasn't a lot of resources. You had to be adaptable. The classes were huge. Classroom management was a challenge. But I obviously, you have to learn a lot from that experience. And, I came away with a mostly positive experience.
Great. And you had not been a teacher before that experience?
No, I was fresh out of college. There was some, there's training, but 10 weeks of training. We did some model school, some practice teaching. But yeah, that was my first experience, and
then they just throw you in.
Which there's not a whole lot of ways to do it, that I would know to do it better. But yeah, definitely thrown into giant classes of kids that don't know you, but there was a lot of respect, and yeah, the kids were awesome.
Great. And then, so when you come back from Peace Corps, how did you decide where to land?
Well, it was 2009. The economy was not doing well. I wasn't sure I wanted to stay in teaching, but that's where my experience was, and I enjoyed it, and I wanted to see how it was in the U.S., see what was different. So I got a job as a learning specialist in New York City at a private school. And that also turned out to be a great experience, working usually with kids that are having trouble in math or science, just giving them extra help, meeting during schools, occasionally after school, and yeah, just giving kids the extra help they needed in whatever form that would be. I was kind of just like a homework guru.
Okay, so like an in-school tutor sort of. Oh, that's great. Okay.
And that was a great experience. Eventually, I wanted to leave New York and kind of try something else, and so I left that position and traveled to Colombia. I wanted to learn Spanish, kind of take a sabbatical year, and I'd saved up some money, and I just kind of studied things that I wanted to study. Spanish, but also cooking, exercise, nutrition.
Oh, great. So you pick up and you fly to Colombia with a backpack, I'm assuming.
Pretty much, yeah.
And do you immediately enroll in Spanish classes, do that sort of route, or?
I tried to learn on my own. I did get a tutor eventually to help me sort of.
Where were you in Colombia?
Well, so I started out in Bogota. I was there for the first month with a friend. Eventually, she left after the first month, and I moved on to Medellin, which is the second biggest city in Colombia. I think it's the second biggest, Cartagena. But anyway, and I loved it there. I just kind of knew on the drive from the airport that I was probably going to end up staying here. So I found an apartment. I mostly learned Spanish on my own, a whole lot of flashcards and just kind of talking to people.
Great.
I had some French skills from Cameroon, so I think that helped me learn Spanish.
And how'd you find, did you, I'm curious about cooking classes and all the other things. And
yeah, most of my education I did on my own online, just playing with recipes, and although I did learn some Colombian dishes, and those I had.
Because that's like a rice and beans based diet. Okay.
Yeah, I can make some pretty good beans.
Nice.
If I don't burn them, which I did once.
There's always one. I mean, at least there's always got to be some failures.
And burned beans cannot be saved.
No,
it's one of the things.
I believe it. Yeah. I think it's like sort of my worst ever was like a leek soup, like a milk and leek soup, and you burn the milk, and you're like, but if I just, and there's no coming back from certain things.
Yeah.
All right, so you spend a year there in Colombia. Wow.
Almost exactly.
Very cool. And so so why did you leave?
Colombia? I decided at some point, maybe in the middle of that year, 7 or 8 months in, that I wanted to be a teacher, which I hadn't, even though I'd been teaching for 6 years, I hadn't actually made that decision. And I hadn't been a physics teacher yet, which was my goal. And I wasn't sure what my job prospects would be, how that would look, so I sort of looked into positions, and my idea was if I got a position that I loved, I would take it, and if not, I would continue traveling, figure maybe do something in South America. I was thinking about working on an organic farm in Ecuador. But I came across this school, Pacific Ridge, and they had just their mission is academic excellence. There are 3 sort of key parts of the mission: academic excellence, ethical responsibility, and global awareness. And those things, like if I was going to make a school, those would be the things that I would go for. It's
a really nice 3-part mission for sure. I just want to keep an eye on the time because we actually have to take you to the airport, but we have plenty of time. Okay, so you applied to jobs from Colombia?
Yeah. I actually remember where I was when I applied for the job. I had a friend visiting. I was in Santa Marta in a hostel, and they were doing construction. So it was not the ideal.
But how great to be able to have it fixed in your memory like that.
Yeah. And I know Jenny, who interviewed me, she tells people that too. How it was just loud. There were people walking by, and it's a funny place for an interview.
But they still that's great that they then.
Yeah. I was planning on coming home anyway to visit and to interview, and so I came by San Diego and interviewed, saw the campus, and they decided to hire me.
Okay. Great. So how are you, how long have you been in San Diego or outside of San Diego?
This is the first, I just finished the first school year.
Okay.
So about 10 months.
So it's a really hard place to adjust to.
Really tough, yeah. The weather can fluctuate from 68 to 75.
Yeah, so all that stuff you put in storage in Massachusetts, it's just never come back out.
It's great there, and the school and the faculty there are, just a big reason for staying.
Great. So this was your first visit to Texas, Austin, which arguably is or is not Texas.
That's what I hear.
We are in Texas, but some people would say it's not truly Texas. I think from both sides of that argument. The rest of so what'd you do? Because you had a day to explore, and you brought a really cool bike, a Brompton. These portable bikes. It's really
that was really key. Cool. It was a little warm.
But we got really warm yesterday. Yeah.
I ended up ducking into a movie theater just to cool off.
Nice. What'd you see?
Jurassic World.
I'm seeing that at this morning actually at 10:30.
I won't ruin it for you.
Cool.
There are a lot of dinosaurs.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! There are lots of dinosaurs in Jurassic World.
And things bad.
This won't come out for a few weeks, so people will have a chance to. So what else?
I kind of cruised around. I went to the UT campus by the Capitol building. I tried to mail my friend a wedding present, and it didn't work out, so that was disappointing. But I got some food, some gluten-free pizza.
Oh, from what place?
Okay,
it's okay.
Yeah.
I would have. I just feel bad now. I would have keyed you into the. I didn't realize you were gluten free because I'm experienced looking for places like that. So I would have.
Austin seemed pretty friendly though.
It is super. It's a foodie town, and so that goes. I feel like it goes with that. There's some pretty good options for any set of dietary restrictions or types.
And then around dinner time, I had a friend from my New York school that I worked with that's since moved to Austin. She just had a baby, so her and her husband and the baby came by the dumpster and checked it out.
Great.
Yeah, just they really wanted to see it.
Awesome. I'm glad you. Yeah,
gave them a
really
tour.
Cool. The shortest home tour possible. It's great. It's so easy. It's like, well, here it is.
But then you start noticing little things and.
Yeah. So
wires.
what was your first impression of when you'd seen pictures online? How did that compare?
I don't remember seeing pictures of the finished inside.
Okay.
So I knew what it would look like from the outside. That wasn't very surprising. I guess is it higher than a normal dumpster?
It's a restaurant-sized dumpster,
Okay.
so I think it's called an 8-yarder. I mean, I think of it as like a New York City-sized restaurant dumpster. I mean, here in Austin, our restaurants tend to have sort of half-height ones.
Right.
And this would be a larger commercial size. I mean, obviously, this is a standard size, so the company ItDS that gave us this dumpster, it's one of their standard sizes. Like a whole apartment complex, I sort of think of. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little bit taller than I guess I had pictured. The inside I hadn't really put together in my head, but then once I saw it, it was like, oh, yep, that's what it must look like because it's the inside of a dumpster. I really like the chalkboard paint I was telling you before. You told me about the quilt, and it was a lot more. Yeah, it was comfortable.
Cool.
I really wasn't. I wasn't really wanting for anything.
Nice. And how'd you sleep?
So the first, I kind of lied down for a few minutes this way, and it just wasn't working out. My feet were.
So you're 6'4"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it it could have worked, but I ended up moving some stuff over and going diagonally, and it was much more comfortable.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a 6x6 dumpster. Maybe 6'1", you can kind of get away with it, but 6'4", all right. Okay, so then once you pull diagonally, because we have a futon mattress plus like a gel topper, and I'm really hoping it's gives you a good night's sleep.
Yeah,
it's very comfortable.
Actually, Friday night I slept better than most nights, like better than I had in a few weeks. I've been traveling and busy with school, and this is just, it keeps out all the light, so I slept till like 9, and
if you're like me
if
you're teacher, like I get on a schedule and I'm like I'm up at 7 no matter what. So like when you suddenly wake up and I'm like it's 8:30 or not, like whoa, what happened? It's a great feeling in a way. You know your body just needed that much sleep.
Yeah, I woke up very rested. The only thing that turning diagonally did was I had no hope of getting into these.
Absolutely.
I kind of wanted to, because you told me some things that were down there, I kind of wanted to explore, but between the bike over here and then the bag over there, everything just kind of exploded, and
True.
I didn't really see the floor.
And so we want to update the floor for that very reason, because it's not convenient to get into the floor, even when the bed is pushed into its normal position as it is now. And so sort of our dumpster 2.0 goal is I want to do a different roof and a different floor, and then a couple other things all right, but I would love to hear what would be your next set of upgrades?
I guess there's a lot of vertical height. I don't know, if you raise the bed, it would have to be very, I don't know, it would be hard, I think, if you put a bed frame or something, just in terms of moving it if you needed to. But maybe something like that, or some storage shelves.
So that's good to hear from someone even as tall as you, because you hit your head a number of times on the light fixture, which is a little bit.
It's cardboard.
Yeah, but it's still. I have it mounted as high as possible, because when it's lower, I hit my head and I just get annoyed at it.
Yeah.
So, but from someone as tall as you, feeling like we could use the vertical space without sacrificing.
Yeah, I think
the sense of spaciousness.
Yeah.
As small as it is, you don't want it to end up feeling like you're crammed into between library shelves or something.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know how I would feel if the ceiling were lower.
Well, so here's what I want to do with the roof is make it a single pitch and actually also put some windows so we can get natural light. Now you enjoyed the pitch black, but some blackout curtains can, you know, because I'm only talking about 10 inches of window, so it'd be pretty easy to keep those blocked out. But for the more of the time, I feel like we need some more natural light in here, because if you close the door, it's a cave. And that would, but then we would lose, we have a little bit of loft space now as it is, but we would lose that. But it would be better for solar panels to have it be a single pitch as well. But that's interesting. Okay, I like that. I like that idea of some shelves up there, which would also maybe eliminate, you could keep a few of the key items out of the floor. Okay, any other suggestions?
I don't know. It was quite comfortable.
What has this inspired, or what has this gotten you thinking for your tiny house as you start thinking of designing?
I think, well, the first thing that I wanted to verify is that I can live in a small space and be happy. There was no point where I felt like I didn't have a place to go, or that I needed to get out of there, or it had the things that I needed.
Awesome.
I think.
And yours will have even more, because yours is going to be a tiny house, so it will have a kitchen and a bathroom.
Right.
And then it'll really be, because we're still working on those things. We want to have all of those things associated with.
Yeah, I think that actually the biggest sort of hindrance, if I were to live here for a while, would be the bathroom situation.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I feel bad calling a guard to open the door to, even, you have to. It's not really an option.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of the things that was not really sustainable. But in a tiny house, obviously you have it all enclosed.
No, but I'm really glad to hear then that the space issue and that it felt homey. I mean, that's the goal, Okay, so what else? Where are you gonna draw so the students are going to help you design the house over the first year?
Yeah, and I think we're going to have them, design their own houses, their like dream houses, whatever they kind of want, and then pick one, so basically say that if there is a good design, we'll think about building it, or at least maybe modifying slightly, but going off of a student idea.
And are you going to set them up? I mean, the size is a constraint. It can help to have some. I mean, our constraints are 6 by 6, and that we want it to look like a dumpster from the outside. So you can't have it too much added on, or you want it to be able to look at some point look like a dumpster. So size, and you had mentioned maybe a loft space, which is a pretty. Are you going to add those constraints to their design challenge?
I'm not sure yet. I kind of want them to be able to do whatever they want. Okay. But when we build, it will most likely be a tiny house on wheels, and and we want it to be a livable space for someone. We don't want to build something that no one will use. So because of that, I foresee a loft. Although there are a lot of designs without them. It's just because you have that vertical space and not as much horizontal space, it usually makes sense. But I think actually I'd like to just open it up to them and see where it goes, and then if they'll have to make that decision. I don't want to put my own, if they have a good reason why they don't want a loft, then
absolutely. Oh, that's great. That's great. And what resources are you pulling from to get them started, or do you have a process or anything? I'm just curious, because we like setting challenges out to students too, and if you have good methods or resources, I want to write them down.
No, I would say you're probably more experienced at the moment,
and we're happy to share all of our resources with you. And you'll be coming across plenty. It's just that you haven't truly started yet.
Yeah, I think this summer is when we're going to really sit down and plan the course, the structure, how it will go, and I sort of have some ideas. There are some books that I will want the kids to look at. I definitely want to look at the the idea of minimalism, the idea of sort of eco-living, and why it's gotten more popular. You know, look at the housing boom and how the square footage, you know, the average square footage of U.S. households has been increasing, and have some sort of philosophical discussions about that. And then the students will need, I think we're going to use Google SketchUp to design. Did you use that?
I have a sketch. Yeah, we have a SketchUp model of the dumpster, and we've been, as the high school kids, the Skill Point Velocity program, they've been working. We set them up so they could either use our model or build their own in SketchUp. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, it seems really.
It's a learning curve, but it's a relatively short learning curve as opposed to full AutoCAD,
Right.
or a more professional level program, which SketchUp can do everything that those can do, but friendlier interface.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know if you had I assume you had a budget.
It's
if
a little.
If you had the students work with that at all.
We're not really, because this is also, we're not trying to do this in a specific amount of time, and I mean, we have budgets for pieces as we go, but we have not set an overall budget, because we're not. This is a laboratory, sort of a living laboratory, and an education platform and a tool. So we're not trying to have as much the affordability discussion. We're happy that it comes up and there's good things to talk about there, but the dumpster itself, we don't actually have that much of a constraint on that, and we work with we're fortunate to get things donated, so.
I think for our house, just because, you know, the students are going to come up with a lot of ideas, and in order to make a reasonable thing to build, you know, we're a school, we need to be on a budget.
No, it's great,
Yeah.
and that's a very important lesson too. Works into every level of. No, it makes a lot of sense. It's just the dumpster, which is a slightly different beast. So yeah, we should probably be wrapping up. Anything else you want to share? I've been throwing this one sort of curveball to people, putting you on the spot, no pressure, but so we all have dumpster nicknames. I'm Doctora Basura, you know, Amanda is the dirty professor, we have Professor Dumpster. We've had a variety of others. We like everyone that we sort of partner and collaborate with to come up with their fun dumpster nickname. It's a version of what's your spirit animal, but dumpster related. So if you were to start thinking about that right now.
Yeah. I think I would like an astronomy term put in there.
I like it. I really like it.
But I don't know, astronomy and dumpsters are pretty far apart.
It's true. Something. Well, there's always brown dwarfs, and it's all, something you know, it's not. It can be a loose connection to trash or recycling or.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a term. Yeah, I don't know.
Just something
Can
to
I
think
work on
about.
it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've been throwing it to people putting you on the spot. So I'm really, the astronomy connection. We don't have anyone with any. I mean, Amanda's she's biology related, so we need a physics based nickname for sure. That'll be great.
All right, I'll work on it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And we were so happy to have you here, and I'm really glad that your school sounds amazing and that they're supportive of this and to send you here.
Yeah, thanks to you guys, and thanks to them for making this happen.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. That's good.
That's a wrap.